MAGA, because when we think about the MAGA, we thought about the MAGA, right? And I watched a video of you from years ago and your definition of MAGA, and you were saying it's counter to what we're witnessing today. So on one side, you might see a conservative commentator like a Mark Levin. You might see a Ted Cruz. You might see folks like that. And you look at Donald Trump and some of the things the president is doing in this day and age, and you juxtapose that to a Steve Bannon, a Tucker Carlson, even Marjorie Taylor Greene. She spoke about this as well. You seem to be on that side. And just to make sure that I'm clear with what I'm talking about, this is a quote, there's a tweet from Marjorie Taylor Greene on X. Tucker Carlson is one of my favorite people. He fiercely loves his wife, children, and our country. Since being fired by the neocon network Fox News, he has more popularity and viewers than ever before. He unapologetically believes the same things I do, that if we don't fight for our country and our own people, then we will no longer have a country for our children and our grandchildren. And foreign war / intervention / regime change put America last, kill innocent people, are making us broke, and will ultimately lead to our destruction. That's not kooky. That's what millions of Americans voted for. It's what we believe is America first. How do you feel about what Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeted there on X? Do you completely agree with her? Is there anything that you disagree with?
Well, let's be clear. Right now, the people applauding Donald Trump are Meghan McCain, Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz ran against Donald Trump, and John McCain, with his dying breath, was a never Trumper with his dying breath. And I remember Meghan McCain standing at his funeral saying, "This country was always great. It never needed to be made great again." To take a stab at Trump, even as she was giving words for her father, which is remarkable, right? So if Trump's aligning himself with the people that didn't support him, and the people that did support him are saying what he's doing is wrong, that doesn't mean that MAGA betrayed Trump. That means that Trump is betraying MAGA. Okay? MAGA is a term, make America great again. And it was because the American people felt like our country was in a steep decline while we were being told that we had to build up every other country with programs. We had to spread democracy in the Middle East. That's been a remarkable failure. And at the same time, our veterans are coming home and they're being treated like crap. We talked about the farmers, we talked about the ranchers. That was the vision that Donald Trump painted that made me get behind him. And I took a lot of bullets for that. A lot of bullets for that, especially as a black person who's not allowed to vote Republican. And I don't regret voting for him in 2020 and voting for him and telling people to vote for him, because I truly believe he was the better candidate. And I still don't regret voting for him against Kamala Harris, because I still believe he was the better candidate. But this is a betrayal, plain and simple. There's no other way to say that. And I believe what's motivating that is he took $100 million from Miriam Adelson. And these people, you're talking about Mark Levin, they are Israel first, okay? Meghan McCain, she is war machine first. How's that trust fund going to get topped up? What did John McCain do? These people are neocons because they support nonstop war, because that is how they enrich themselves. And if that is what Trump is aligning with, if that's what he wants his legacy to be, I came in fighting neocons and now I've aligned with them, then that's on him. That really is. I can't tell him what to think or what to say or who to support. I just won't support it.
That's fair, but does that surprise you? Because listen, in fairness to you, like I said, I haven't spoken. I only spoke to Trump once since he's been president, and that's when I did the whole town hall thing on News Nation with Chris Cuomo and Bill O'Reilly and those guys. Was what folks, maybe not you specifically, I don't recall this, but most folks classified him as. Candace, he was a deal maker. You know what? Whatever it took to get what he wanted, he was cool with it. And so for me, this is not a surprise when you talk about him veering left in terms, or veering right actually, when it comes to some of the things that he's elected to do. But most people with MAGA seem surprised, and they do feel like they are uttering words like betrayal. To me, it's more the same. It's who he is. He's going to lean towards getting what he wants, and it's just that simple.
Okay, that's a fair assessment. I would say why we're surprised is because we had him in office for 4 years and he wasn't a warmonger. He wasn't aligned with the neocons. He was fighting them tooth and nail the first 4 years that he was in office. And it seemed to us and I think anybody would agree, the country was getting better. I mean, I think that's why he increased his margins in voting. If you look at the demographics, more black men, more black women voted for him this second time around when he got into office. because the rhetoric fell on deaf ears when people were like, oh, he's going to do this, he's going to bring us into war. We go, he didn't do that for the first 4 years. So, yeah, it has been a shift in how he behaved in the first 4 years of office. But to put two and two together, big money wasn't behind him the first time, right? That was the whole thing. Nobody wanted him. It was the Never Trump movement that was led by the McCain types. He can't get into office. And so, did he buck to them suddenly when he took that check from Miriam Adelson and then change his motivations? Perhaps we're having to do some internal soul searching for those of us who have voted for him second and third time to wonder what is the sea change. But I think you have to admit that there has been one. He wasn't putting us into wars from 2020 to 2024.
Are you fearful at all that the Trump presidency, in terms of him being the 47th president of the United States, that it could end up being worse than anything you ever imagined if Kamala Harris had won the election? Is that possible?
No, I think Kamala Harris, it was going to be similar to Joe Biden. The advisors and people that were around her were going to be running the show. I we can disagree on this, but I've never thought that she had the cognitive capabilities to be running the office. If you just look at her record and how she really got into office, and I'm speaking about her Californian record. But with Trump, do I have a fear of World War III? Yeah, that's why we're speaking up and saying this is unacceptable, right? That's why we are saying what you are doing is wrong and letting him know that we feel betrayed. We went along with it and said, this is fine. We just trust the process. Then I would probably be more fearful. But I think it's becoming clear that the base is fractured, and hopefully he'll respond to that.
Go from here if he doesn't respond, or he doesn't respond favorably to the kind of things that you are asserting and stating? Where do you go? Because we know how you feel about the Democratic Party, okay, and now we're hearing how you feel about this betrayal that you think that he has exercised since he's become president again. Where do you go from here if that doesn't change as it pertains to him?
Well, I think no matter what, I'm always going to support a candidate that I believe is telling the truth or that is going to do the most good for America. At the end of the day, my day is not motivated by politicians. I don't have faith in politicians, right? I have faith in Jesus Christ. And so this is not going to throw me. I'm not going, oh my God, I'm going to become a Democrat tomorrow, or I'm no longer going to vote for Republicans anymore. I think that, and if anything, if he really truly continues to follow this and does what Bibi Netanyahu wants, then it's going to bring both sides closer together, because we're going to recognize that everything is about keeping us warring with one another while the same people at the top are benefiting, the oligarchs, the war machine. And so I don't have plans to leave the Republican Party. Like I said, I don't regret voting for him. I regret what he's doing right now. And until I see who the candidates are, I won't be able, in the future, I won't be able to remark on where I'm going to go, because I'm always going to follow what I believe to be right.
Good. I want to have you back on to get your perspective on some trending news headlines. You called the escalation between Israel and Iran a propaganda war. We all know what's been going on between Israel and Iran. We've heard President Trump speak about it. You've been on the record calling it a propaganda war. Explain that, Candace.
Well, it was very obvious that this war was going to happen because the American foreign policy is dictated by Israel. And it was problematic that Bibi Netanyahu was increasing his rhetoric against Iran. And this is after they have effectively seized land in Syria. They were cheering what happened in Syria. We knew that it was going to wind up with Christians being mass